of items be taken off the consent agenda for discussion and separate action. Need a motion in a second.
Make a motion to accept the consent agenda as adopted.
Second.
Motion in a second, all in favor say yes.
Yes.
Opposed? All right, now we need to consider approval of the consent agenda as adopted. Approve minutes from November 16th, 2021 Board of Education meeting. Approve the financial report for the period of July 1, 2021 through November 30th, 2021. And approve bills for the period of November 1, 2021 through November 30th, 2021 in the amount of $2,832,067.97.
So moved.
Second.
All in favor say yes.
Yes.
Opposed? Motion's carried. Academic Pillar of Excellence, Sir 3, Mr. Mello.
All right, so in the committee of the whole meeting, we went through again our COVID protocols and what we're doing and what's online for the district. Because as part of ESSER 3 funds, which are coming from the federal government, we have to do a few steps in order to access those funds. Some of those are the example that we had in the committee of the whole. Another one is this step, which is there's a PowerPoint, basically a slide deck that we have to go through and talk about. But just so you know, most of this is boilerplate language from the DPI. We fill in a couple of spots in this that are specific to us. And so we'll go fairly quickly. We don't have to go through all these slides. We'll get fairly quickly and go to the points that we are, that are related to the district. And then we invite the board, at this part right here is to invite the board to have feedback into what we're looking at, okay? The other part, so the first one is this PowerPoint presentation that is on paper. That will be linked also to messaging that's going out to staff and families, okay? The other part of it is the safe return to in-person instruction and continuity of services plan. That is within this slide deck. And so we'll get to a certain point as I'm zipping through these slides and we'll talk about our safe return and continuity of services plan, okay? This one has much more, the safe return plan has much more specific about us. And so that one I'll make sure I hit on those points. Okay, and then get your feedback. And just like I mentioned before, it also requires that we have an opportunity for staff to feedback and also for the public to feedback. And so our families get messaging and they'll get links to these things and it'll come to them in the form of a slide deck and this link to it. Okay? Does that make sense?
Yep.
All right. The rationale for it again is that in order to access the funds for ESSER 3, we have to go through these steps. So why we're reaching out, that is really why we're reaching out. The first slide is that it's part of ESSER 3 and we have to share our ideas and priorities with you and get your feedback. So our planning committee is the administrative team, and we're also getting input from parents, students, and community members. Okay. The ESSER 3 grant basics, this slide does have something specific to us. Plymouth Joint School District is in ESSER 3 expected to receive roughly $1.5 million in ESSER 3 funding. That funding can be used once we upload our steps to DPI. It can be used from then up through September 30th of 2024. In fact, all of the ESSERs can be used during that time period, okay? And there are 3 of them. I guess that goes without saying, it's ESSER 3.
That's the 3.
Well, the money, what is it used for? It's for many things, most of which is dealing with catching kids up or dealing with COVID or paying for programming because of the pandemic and all of those things. And this is just boilerplate language, but they give examples of things that you can do. Extended summer school, extended days, comprehensive programs. But just so you know, this is not one of those grants that you can't supplant something with. So we already have a summer school program. Last year we kind of extended, if you remember, we had some different summer school options for kids. We specifically were working with individual kids to try to catch them up. It was still within our summer school, which we've always been doing, so you can use those funds even though we've been doing it in the past. So some of our programming that we've used for targeted interventions for kids in math, maybe they're behind, or maybe they're way ahead and we can help them get further along, we can pay for some of that programming even though we're not changing and grabbing a new set of programs. So it is one of those that you are allowed to supplement or supplant. The next page is who are these funds that we do need to make sure we're focusing on, and the disproportionately impacted student groups, the underrepresented subgroups, racial and ethnic, low income, children with disabilities, English learners, migrant students, students experiencing homelessness, children and youth in foster care. So what we are required to do through the ESSER fund is to make sure that what we're spending is for sure impacting those groups of kids. It can impact everybody, but for sure we're going to make sure that it does have an impact with the underrepresented subgroups as well.
So then how do you show evidence of that?
What we have to do
Okay.
with there isn't any evidence that we're being asked to show.
Okay.
We're being asked to make the plan, and if something comes up down the road, we'll be able to show that we hired somebody specifically for EL at Riverview, for example, which we have done already, which we've done. So, but DPI is saying that it's all on the front end with this, so that's what,
Okay.
take them at face value, I guess.
Some of it has to do with coding too. If DPI has very specific codes to ESSER 1, 2, and 3,
Mhm.
so I just move expenses into those different, ESSER programs,
Mhm.
and then I have to submit them as a claim, and that would be how we would show proof
Okay.
of whatever if they asked for it.
Sure, right.
So the accounting has to match what we submit in a claim,
Mhm.
and all of that is directed by DPI.
What else can the funds be used for? They can be used for preparedness and response, so things like all the different PPEs or your HVAC systems or any of that. Addressing long-term school closures. We've just been talking recently again about, do we have enough chargers in case we had to close down? And, just trying to be prepared at all times. Well, the microphones that we bought, for example, that were in the original shutdown, those are all examples of things that we could, fund through these ESSER funds. What else can the funds be used for? Continuing. Outreach services for special populations, mental health services and supports. And there are just some examples there from DPI that you could use those funds for. And in some cases, we have used some funds in those areas. And like Amy said, when those issues arise and you have to pay for something, you code it to that item line. And snapshot of LEA is the local education agency, is what LEA stands for, by the way. That just means our district. Okay. So who's being disproportionately affected in our district? English learners, students with special needs, early childhood, and what are we seeing there? Well, certain students have lost learning opportunities through different reasons, connectivity, through mental health issues, through support from home. There's a lot of different reasons that those needs exist, and so we're addressing those as we're moving forward. So the page addressing needs there are 2 specific pages to our district. This is one of them. And so our district, we are saying that we're planning to address learning loss with 50% of the money that we're receiving through the ESSER 3 funds. So that for us would be $750,000 or more. And we have proposed that that be used to support students, for their academics, for everything, to support professional development, for additional learning periods, both during the regular school day and beyond it, are options for us. Any of those things that might come in as personnel expenses related to increased services for students and families is what we're saying we'd be at $750,000. However, just as we're going through this is all fluid. We are asked to get an estimate right now and say this is what we're thinking is going to happen. It's about what's been happening as we've been moving through. About half of it's been going towards personnel and programming and those types of things, and about half of it has been going towards the next page, which is things like equipment and curriculum and things like that. But as long as you make the expense and code it, it could end up being mostly in personnel, or it could end up being mostly in curriculum. It just has to be, addressing the need that you have. So DPI recommends that you, unless you have a specific plan in place and you're going to say that's going to happen in 2 years, that you kind of just do it 50-50 and move forward and make your adjustments as you go. Okay. The next page is addressing needs. Again, proposed priorities for addressing other things, and this would be another $750 estimate that we propose to focus funds on things like technology for students in classrooms, programming, curriculum, resources, and materials. Okay. So at this point, your thoughts on the ESSER 3 plan as presented so far, and mainly it's the last 2 slides. Do you have any thoughts that you'd like me to consider or to add or change?
I think you guys know where the needs are better than us, but, that's exciting, to be able to have the resources to bring in needs, because I know a lot of kids have, when they were at home doing it online, some kids did great with it and a lot of them did not though, Like my brother said his grandson lost a year of school. They don't live here. But where he was at, and, and I'm like, they'll get caught up. It just takes time, and, a bump like this to have extra resources, both in curriculum and in staff to help the kids catch up is awesome.
So
Really a bump-
sorry, Dan.
Is this really a bump in financial resources? Well,
We talked about
I'm
fiscal.
pretty sure last 3 months or so we've been talking about, the state budget and everything, and this, right now it makes it sound like, oh, good, we have all this extra money to use on education and other physical resources, but I don't know if that's really the case.
I would agree with you.
Yep.
This is kind of the reason that I don't know what the reason is. But my guess about the reason why there wasn't any additional money put into the per pupil revenue limit was because this money in ESSER funds is kind of equivalent to what would normally be put on in this 3-year period by raising the per pupil revenue limit by $100 or $150 per pupil every year. And so as you're moving forward, it shouldn't be looked at as if we've got all this extra money. We really don't, and that's what we've been saying to our legislators is this will, and plus it's going to end, and if we're still sitting at $20 on the revenue limit, then there will be expenses that need to be adjusted at that point. So it's operational thing for one-time expenses, personnel that are specific to, a program that's just happening for the next couple of years at a school related to helping kids learn and catch up. But you're right, it shouldn't be something that's looked at as, oh, we're going to be good forever
No.
with this, because it just isn't.
No.
What were the ESSER 1 and ESSER 2 funds? About the
So-
same?
No,
No.
one was a lot smaller.
One was like 172,000, and then ESER 2, maybe like maybe 900,000, 1 million. So right now, we're in the phase where we have ESER 2 and ESER 3 over, until September of 2024. So you have to think of it backwards, we'll spend it and then we'll claim it, as opposed to getting them, we don't have the money, we only get the money when we spend the money. So if we don't spend all of it, we won't receive all of it. So we have to be pretty cognizant and
But
Smart.
with the legislature not making adjustments, it's going to force us to spend, right?
it will force us to spend it, yeah.
Yeah. So we will spend it.
We will spend it, I just don't want anyone to think we have all of this money sitting there. We have to claim it to get it. So, we have to plan and figure out what we want to put expenses toward ESSER so that we can get it back. So, when Dan said some of it can be a supplant to what we normally do, and we have things in the budget that we can put into ESSER because they do fit the definition of what we could use it for. Not necessarily that might be extra. It was just something that we had already budgeted for. We still entered the year with a $700,000 deficit if we didn't have ESSER. So we're trying to keep that mindset so that we don't just, so that we're smart about it and really put it toward what it needs to go toward.
Are they good at sending the money when you submit?
Oh, sure, it only takes a couple weeks, but some of that's not done until, the summer, when we kind of are winding down the school year and we're looking at expenses and where we're at, what we can move, and, when I'm working with the auditors and things like that, so.
I guess my disappointment is because of what's happening with the state dollars, this is really just an offset for some of that, which means really the ultimate need here, or what the intent was, are we really addressing it, right? If all we're doing is offsetting some operational things, we may have some short-term dollar benefits here, but if kids are getting lost in the cracks, there are mental issues, are we really spending these dollars? Do we really have additional dollars that we're spending here or not?
Well, I think that we do. I mean, we have brought in additional staff. We've made changes to substitute teachers and things like that are additional costs that we definitely would not do if we didn't have ESSER funds.
So when we get to our fiscal cliff later on, we are looking at cutbacks that will occur if something doesn't happen at the state level.
Correct.
Okay,
So this isn't sustainable if we don't see funds come in from the state level?
from the state.
No,
The way that we're staffing, the way that we're tending to students in that way?
correct.
Right.
So very short-sighted from the state's perspective. Okay. All right.
Right, then,
We're gonna get a little more, so we got some general categories here for physical and then educational opportunities. Is there a chance of, I know we talked about public input and school board input, at what point is there gonna be input sessions, or is this our shot right now?
this is your shot right now.
So, I guess just generally speaking, I'd love to see kind of a breakout from these areas, okay, this is an option, the only thing that pops into my head that we talked about in summer school was the COVID catch-up, and I assume, that made a lot of sense, right? So I assume that's gonna be something we're gonna be doing right now, or next summer? Is there any other things that we could define into here so that if someone's asking me, what are you using your ESSER funds for, or ARPA money for? This is what we're doing, I guess would be, I mean, I guess I could just give them the generals too, but I don't know, I mean, and then you look at the physical stuff, you know, besides microphones and things like that, are we upgrading HVAC systems at all? Is this a good opportunity to do that?
Yes, and it's on the agenda for today to approve that HVAC
Oh, that one,
system.
yeah.
Yep. And that one's coming straight from the federal dollars. Just the advice given to us by the DPI when I attended the conference on this plan was to not do exactly that, which was don't paint yourself in a corner about trying to predict what you're going to spend it on in 2 years. If you can be general about, 50% is personnel to address that specific learning loss or mental health issues or staffing issues because of, people being out with COVID. And 50% is for programming and they advised us not to get specific because you're making a prediction on what you don't know. Because like Amy said, you have to spend it and then claim it. So,
Right, like we might be 3 months into the year and, someone might say, we need an intervention, we need a reading interventionist. Well, okay, we're gonna hire one, we're gonna throw all of their salary and benefits into ESSER, probably. But we might not know that until November of 2023. So we're just being very vague right now, and then as we see the needs, then we know, in the back of our mind that we have that, and then we code it to that.
Is there any curriculum adds we can make that we want to do that could be addressed or added into the ESSER funds and all? Anything, when the principals are all here, I guess, might be a great opportunity.
I think we did talk about some curricular opportunities that we could put in there. We just don't necessarily know what that curriculum is at this time that we want to put in there. But we would work together and work with our team and say, hey, would this be something that we could use the ESSER funds? So it is something that we've talked about, of putting curriculum in there for ESSER funds.
You good?
Yeah.
I think it's just like our COVID mitigation strategy that we put in place a year ago, right? That we need flexibility because there are a lot of unknowns. The Surgeon General, as well, 4 weeks ago, said that student mental health is probably the biggest thing that we're going to be addressing in the coming years. A lot of it stems from the COVID, the fight that we've had with COVID and the masking and all the different things that went on with isolation. But student mental health was also known prior to that. So we don't know what is going to be the big thing. So if we try to make all the decisions right now, we're deciding on actions that we need to give them, I think, flexibility to.
Yep, I understand the general concept now.
I agree, and I appreciate Dan's question, because I got asked directly, are we using the ESSER funds for extracurriculars? And will those funds go towards the proposed changes to the football field? And so even the fact, I know. But that's just it, when there's not
well, you
that.
will be outside.
Right.
Correct. Sorry.
Joke, if anybody's watching.
But I think the clarity of asking the question of, we can say 50% towards personnel and 50% towards curriculum technology, but even having the assurances of saying, okay, Dan's upgraded his moped to a Harley because of the ESSER funds. Obviously that's ridiculous. But I think being able to have some type of response, I think is helpful. So I appreciate Dan bringing it up, and if there is any more clarity, because even having to respond, okay, what did we spend our PPP funds on? Different, I get it, but we still have to be accountable to that, and I know that, hey, this is where we spent our funds, this is where we show it, this is where we have the accounting. It's different here, but if there's something that we are able to answer with, to some degree, or examples, I think is
So would it help if, when we have our board meetings, if we have Amy report out when we've tapped in on specific activities, on how the ESSER funds are being spent?
Well, I mean, I don't think it has to be like every I dot and T cross, but then I think general
But a
framework
general
is
direction.
helpful.
Right.
Because I know you're going through the coding stuff, and so I can't imagine all the different codings that there are to follow through with those different pieces. But I think some general ideas when we are asked those questions, or we do have to say, hey, this is how we're representing those dollars, we can say, yeah, we know that in the last quarter, some of those dollars were spent, dot, dot, dot.
So one example is at our middle school, we have the 2 additional teachers. Actually, now it's 3 additional teachers because we just, 4? 4 additional.
We had 3, we
Keeps
just-
going up. So that is going through ESSER funds. Yeah, now Riverview's sounding really good. But that is being taken out of ESSER funds, and it is specifically to help with what we had talked about at at our last committee of the whole meeting, is with those, overall our standardized testing results. Last year, we also purchased middle school social studies curriculum, and that was, I believe, also taken out of ESSER. And curriculum is very expensive, so it's not just a, drop in the bucket, but it's a considerable chunk of
Yeah.
money. So those are some examples.
Absolutely.
I could certainly
Sorry.
report, and I think I did at the annual meeting, I did a pie chart for Dan at one point.
Dan likes his
He was very
charts.
happy.
And he liked it.
Yeah. He didn't like all the colors he used.
He can choose those if he wants. Usually at the end of a school year is when I could give you a good reporting of, general categories of where we claimed it all. I can tell you that when I make a claim to DPI, a lot of times I also have to enter in a description of what we did with it, why we got it, or whatever. Ordered laptops for every student to help with virtual learning. If I put in there that we turfed a football field, I can guarantee you it would come back as a sign.
And again, I want to make sure you guys hear me, that I completely trust you guys. It's the questions that we get asked.
Right.
And if I give a
Absolutely.
blank stare, then there's another question that comes of why are you on the board and why you're doing what you're doing.
Yeah.
And so I think being able to have those answers and to support why we're spending the funds in the ways that we are is fantastic, so.
Yeah, and I think particularly when it is a very specific need that as staff, you've identified, this is where we need to give more support to what we've been through with COVID, and that ESSER funds are going to be used for that as long as we have them. I think those are the key talking points that'll help all of us.
We do, is it every 3 times a year financial reporting? Is that part of
Yeah,
what we're doing
we
now?
put that on our report out, so we can
Yeah.
have it.
Like Aaron
Just
said,
update the graph
I don't care about the 12 HEPA filters you bought. I care about what big spends that we made to address, just learning concerns that we have.
Yeah, just know it's very possible that I won't make a claim for ESSER until May.
Oh, okay.
I might not, because a lot of times it's easier to wait until the end and claim like a whole salary and benefits as opposed to doing it every 3 months. So, we just,
Yeah.
if we need to, I will, but I might not.
I guess at a certain point for us to understand though that we've added staff and it's a temporary situation because these funds will get depleted and unless something happens, we will have to make some,
Yep,
at some
it was-
point, we've got to
yeah.
know that, yep, this person was brought on with ESSER funds, which means this may be temporary.
Right, and with personnel, we pretty much know, we know who eventually will be coded to ESSER. So
Okay.
we could definitely do that without having to make a
I don't think I want to be that
claim.
employee to know that.
What's this?
I don't think I want to be that employee.
E3.
All right,
Yeah. That's what's
all right, so, thank you. Keep,
Okay, the next slide in the slide deck is our plan for safe return. This is another part that has to be done, and this will get posted on our website and also sent out for feedback. Again, there's a lot of boilerplate in here from DPI, and so it starts with our plan, the safe return plan for the Plymouth Joint School District. There's the introduction that tells you what is ESSER, and we've talked about that up to know. And then it gets into page 2 for Bob, maintaining health and safety. There are page numbers.
Thank you.
And so wherever there's a box, that's kind of specific to us. Okay, so the boilerplate is the verbiage that's not in the boxes. So the first one there is a description of maintaining safety for staff and students. And it just is a broad overview of some of the bigger things that we do to maintain safety for students in school. And some of that is the HVAC, the air exchange, the distancing. And so some of those are listed there, and staying home when you're sick. And all of those things are listed. The next one is description to continue to provide services regardless of the mode of instruction. And so that our descriptor there is on page 2 still. Sorry. Our descriptor there is about the fact that we are ready for the flip to virtual if need be. And so just a brief description of that. 3 are mitigation measures that, the first one there, this is again DPI language, and this one is kept because of DPI. Universal and correct wearing of masks. And so we just post what we do. We recommend that people wear masks, especially those who are unvaccinated and on buses. But again, for us, it is optional, except when we've got a bit of we've got some transfer in school. Which, by the way, the end of that will be tomorrow, where we've had kids wearing masks in the elementary and middle. And our numbers, just FYI, continue to be good these last 2 weeks, and seem to be very good this week as well. So we're hopefully anticipating kind of a regular start again after break, unless people go crazy. Modifying facilities to allow for physical distancing, and so of course, we do different things. When we need to, we cohort at lunches, or we eat in classrooms when numbers are high. We space out more when things are high. We get outside and do things when we can. My favorite, and everybody's favorite, hand washing, and the word of the last meeting for the BLT, respiratory etiquette. So teaching about hand washing and how to cough into your elbow and all of that is something that we definitely do. Cleaning and maintaining facilities, improving ventilation. Of course, we've been doing that. We continue to do it. We do it more when we've had some transfer in different locations with our fogger and those types of things, and adding more custodial help to the specific spots where those things are happening. Contact tracing and isolation and quarantine. We're following guidance from the local public health. We did have, on the bottom one there, coordination with the local and state public health. We did have a meeting with public health with the county because we had elevated numbers there going for 3 weeks, and so they reviewed our entire plan, gave us some suggestions, and so we incorporated some of those things. So it's been updated on our webpage as well, any of the changes that we've made. We do that right away. So we're always in coordination with public health on those types of issues. We do have diagnostic screening on site now at the high school building, as I think most people are aware. It gets used a lot. About once every 6 minutes, there's somebody getting a test all day that they're there.
It's no longer a tent.
No, it's a kiosk.
Yeah.
Mhm.
I drove in today looking for the tent, and I was like, oh no, it's a building out here.
Yeah. It was supposed to be a COVID cottage, but then it turned into a COVID kiosk.
Oh,
The district does get to keep it, by the way.
the cottage?
Yeah. Efforts to provide vaccinations to educators, other staff, students if eligible. We did have a couple of clinics available here in the district over time, but our nurses and people just try to get information to people about where they can if they would like to access vaccines. Appropriate accommodations for children with disabilities and all of those practices, and so there are changes to even IEPs and 504s that have happened since COVID, and we're continuing with those as well. Coordination, I mentioned that about with public health officials. On to page 5, the continuity of services is just talking about how we are continuing to work to try to make sure kids get what they need to thrive. So student academic needs and student social emotional needs, those are examples of things that we're doing where we're adding personnel in certain places, or adding supports, or changing programming so that we can address learning needs, but then also trying to address mental health issues as well. Food service is listed here as another need people need to eat, and the USDA is still reimbursing districts for meals, so that's continuing. We are taking advantage of that. I'm saying we're taking advantage of it as long as they're going to be reimbursing, and so if that does end at some point, we'll go back to our regular charging for it. Again, staff, the social emotional needs, we do have an EAP program here, and we've also done other little things, and in the health and wellness group is always trying to do something to add some joy and physical activity to people's lives, and so even our days where we're having our professional learning days, some physical activity, get the blood moving, or talk about gratitude and those types of things that help people feel good in the face of some stressful times. The last page is boilerplate. It's just that we have to do a periodic review of this at least every 6 months, and so we will do that. And the reviews will then, any change that we make, will just simply post up on the website. We'll probably be doing any changes that occur to this, just like we have done with the mitigation strategies. If we do have to make changes, we ultimately will make those right up on the website right away. So this information will be posted on our webpage. It will go out to families, the next steps as well. We go out to families, we go out to staff, people have a chance to feedback into the system, and ultimately we will post this we will send it in for approval in February to the DPI. Once the DPI has approved this, there's a couple other small steps that don't require the board's input, just in the granting process. We'll get those done, and then we'll be able to code items to ESSER 3. So, any other thoughts or questions?
Thoughts, questions? Dan? Owen? Good? No,
Looks good.
Aaron? No? All right. Well, thank you. Schedule response, right? All right, item number 8, we're going to consider the approval of the 2022-2023 school year calendar. Amy?
Yep.
Amy?
So we talked about this at the committee of the whole meeting. The calendar is pretty similar to all the calendars that we have. The only change that we are proposing is the Friday before Memorial Day. We would like to remove the language, if there's no school day, no snow day, then there's no school. If there's a snow day, then there's school. So we are proposing to change that Friday to a professional development day, so students would have no school regardless if there's a snow day or not.
Any discussion, questions?
So an additional professional day, or is that what you're saying? Or is there one already that month? Or that
We just moved it.
just moved it? Okay.
So if it snows, or if it doesn't snow, is there not a professional development day?
The teachers can make it.
No matter what, there will be a professional
There will
development
still be
day.
a professional.
No matter what, the
Okay, all right.
So when are the snow makeup days? Are there any built into the calendar? I don't have the calendar in front of me.
we'll have two.
At the end?
We'll have two days that we won't have to make up to start with. And then any days beyond that, we will have to make up,
Got it,
based on the hours of instruction with TPI.
got it, okay.
Yeah,
Are
the
you not
students
able to
and-
go virtual if it does snow?
We have those options and plans. There's some pros and cons to that.
Yeah.
We are able to.
It's a little chaotic from when we're being asked to go virtual like that. It's a lot for the teachers and aides to get together like quick.
Well, and for the families as
And
well. Because you don't know where students are going to be, if they're going to be at home versus at a grandparent or a sitter. So but yes, we have plans in place.
Let's just not have snow days.
Seeming like we may not.
Right,
A bit early.
all right. Moving on.
I think we need to approve.
Approve it.
Oh, we have to approve calendar, so I need a,
I make a motion to approve the calendar change to adding that professional development day.
Second.
motion and a second. All in favor, say yes.
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 Opposed? Finance, buildings, and grounds. Facility subcommittee update, Sal.
We did meet last month, and we had a group of people from Plymouth. They are the Plymouth Environmental Action Team. They came to talk to us about being green, and they spoke to us on what they are involved in the community, and they were very pleased when Dan Mella explained to them that pre-COVID that we did have a group of students that worked on the community being green and being green here in the school system also. There was something else that you mentioned last week, Dan, and I don't remember what it was when they came. But also.
They talked about energy conservation and like the lighting, for example, I think was one, conserving energy. We were able to tell them that we are working on going LED as much as possible and working through that.
And also after this group spoke and then they left, we did talk about the other updates, the Riverview update, talking about the turf on the fields, doing the fundraising for that. And our next meeting will be March 17th. Any questions?
Thank you, Sal. Item B, consider approval of the Plymouth High School HVAC project. Amy?
Yeah, so we talked about this in the committee of the whole also. This is in the pool area, the HVAC system. Dan had described that it's, I think, original, and there's not enough air movement, things are getting rusty, and it needs to be replaced. So All Day Honnold is the vendor that would be doing the work. They've done a lot of work with our HVAC systems and a lot of our systems, so. And I think the projected cost is around $280,000.
And those funds will?
Those funds are the funds that we receive, the additional funds that Dan had mentioned at the committee of the whole also, that Evers had held back. So all districts got, this additional funding, so that's what we're going to use those for.
Okay, any other questions? So we need a motion. Yes.
So the pool HVAC system does not go against ESSER funds. It goes,
Correct.
it's federal funds that the state was holding on to.
Yes.
That's that like $100 million number they
Yep.
was in the news a couple weeks ago.
Yep. And each
And how
district
much
is
do
given a
you-
certain amount based on their third-party counts.
And these were not any of the ESSERs, these are just other
No.
federal funds.
Correct.
So say otherwise, about a third of our ESSER money just went away.
Yeah. All right. Okay. I would need a motion and a second.
I move we approve the HVAC project for the pool.
A second.
Motion and second. Any other discussion? All in favor say yes.
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 Opposed? All right. Go find a system. Consider gifts and corresponding budget adjustments. Is this you? Oh, you're gonna-
So again, we have a very generous community. Thank you for all of the donations that you give us. We are good stewards with your donations. So the first one is an anonymous donation of $6,000 for bleacher seats on the Plymouth High School tennis court. So in between the tennis, for the two sets of tennis courts, there's a wide area, and so somebody donated money, so we'll have bleachers in there so more people can watch their kids play. There's also a donation from Plymouth Industries of 2 goals to be used in the multi-purpose facility, 2 soccer goals. And then a donation of $170.80 from Parkview PTK for elementary planners. And so we need a motion to accept those.
Make a motion to accept those donations.
Second?
Motion and second. All in favor say yes.
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 Opposed? And then thank you for those generous donations. And we are now in public participation, no. And then we'll move on to board liaison reports. Community ed, Sally.
Community Ed is going to have a new class starting for 3Ks. That will be starting in January. And on March 8th, I know that seems a long way away, but there's going to be a free class talking about the history of the Plymouth schools. So sign up for that and learn the history of this area. A lot of classes: woodworking, carving, dog obedience, pickleball, yoga, group hiking. That's going to be in April and May, but get on the list to know when they're going out and where. They have balance and functional movement. Inside, it's cold out there, come on in the schools and walk the hallways after school's out. Or down in the multipurpose building, you can walk. We also have water classes, and for the moms with young kids, they have a Friday play group in January through March. They have that available. Need nutrition and wellness classes, that's coming up. And there are free movies here at the high school. One is January 27th, March 3rd, April 13th, and May 3rd. For the free movies, you have to register, because if nobody registers, they're going to cancel it. So just let them know. And if you haven't seen the guide, it's out in the community, or stop by and pick one up, so you know the dates and everything of when there's a lot of classes in here. So come and take opportunity of what community does for us. Any questions?
Thank you, Sally. Foundation, that'll be my report. We did not meet this month, but the mini grants are being reviewed. We're getting more applications all the time. Again, I'd encourage all the administrators to be sure to get your teachers thinking about ways to enrich the classroom. We love reading about these grants. We love the enthusiasm that comes through when you read the grant applications. And we love our community that supports the foundation, because we're able to get these grants into the hands to teachers and enrich the learning experience. So end of the year is coming, So if you need to make a charitable contribution, please go to the foundation website and provide a few more dollars to improve the learning experience at Plymouth. That's the foundation report. From there, Family Resource Center, Dan.
Yeah, I just have one announcement. We have the 25th anniversary fundraiser, so the save the date is out for May 21st, 2022. It's at Nourish Farms in Sheboygan Falls. If you've never been there, it's a beautiful event. And for more information, you can find it on the website, www.familyresourcesheboygan.org. That's it.
Thanks, Dan. Personnel.
Yes, we've got a couple of personnel additions that will need to be approved, and then we've got just some support staff that don't. So I'll start with the ones that will need some action. First, the board will consider the approval of a limited-term contract for Bonnie Post as a special education and English language interventionist for the remainder of the 2021-22 school year. Bonnie received her bachelor's degree from Silver Lake College and her master's degree from Lesley University. This is Bonnie's 21st year of teaching. And the other one is the board will consider the resignation of Sarah Reeby, band teacher at Riverview Middle School. Sarah's been with the district for 7 years and will be missed.
So we need a motion
To approve those
to
two.
approve the contract and the resignation. Need a motion?
I'll make a motion to approve these personnel adjustments.
Second?
Motion is second. All in favor say yes.
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 Opposed?
I have a couple of support staff that don't need action. Michaela Mendenhall, special education aide at Riverview Middle School, has submitted her resignation. Michaela has been with the school district for 3 years. Lynn Coppin has been hired as a cook server at Horizon Elementary School. Kim Winkler has been hired as a custodian at Riverview Middle School. And Les Koenig has been hired as a custodian at Plymouth High School.
Thank you. Nothing for the consent agenda, so that comes to the president's report. I'm going to make it short and sweet, but I do want to recognize just the season that we're in. This is a season of giving, and you recognize during this time period that a little bit of patience and getting together with family and getting together with friends and thinking about our community, that's really what's most important. Everything else, everything we've thought about, argued about, talked about, it's not as important as this season right now. And if you go on our website, you'll see community engagement at our best. It talks about what all of the schools that these gentlemen represent have been doing to engage with our community, from cards to people at Rocky Knoll, to fundraisers for the food pantry, for different donations, different drives. Just great work of all of our students and our staff and our schools. And in this season of giving, thank you very much. And Merry Christmas to everyone. Go ahead.
All right. Some student and staff accomplishments. First of all, I'd like to read a letter of commendation from the Wisconsin High School Forensics Association. On behalf of the Wisconsin High School Forensics Association, I extend congratulations to Plymouth Comprehensive High School Director John Colombo and your students who participated in the 2021 State One Act Play Contest, held as part of the Wisconsin Interscholastic Theater Festival, November 19th through 20th at Stevens Point and online. Your school's commitment to the performing arts gives your student artists means for creative expression and enhances their social, emotional learning during a pandemic, when connecting with peers is of critical importance. The cast of the play, Paper or Plastic, received the All-State Award for their production commemorating their advancement and participation in the state festival. Additionally, the production earned a plus earning an Outstanding Acting Award by Saria Ostenberg as Sarah and Kevin Smith as voiceover announcer. Your school should be extremely proud of your theater program and the accomplishment of the cast and crew who represented your school and district in such an outstanding manner. We look forward to their continued participation at future festivals. In the process of looking for a new band director at the middle school, it's again obvious that our performing arts in Plymouth are very highly regarded by the people that come and what they tell you and what they've seen at state solo ensemble festivals or at one-act play opportunities. So congratulations, and let's keep that rolling. Our world language department, just as an example of what Bob was mentioning, is a good example where they raised $1,200 in fundraising activity for multiple different things, for refugee families, for Project Angel Hugs, Rocky Knoll, and a particular student who has cancer in the high school. So congratulations and thank you. One of our future states in a couple of different pillars relates to community outreach and volunteering and servant leadership. And so this is a really good season where it's on demonstration. So we have, at all the schools, there's a lot of giving that goes on at this time of year. And I'd be remiss if I didn't say and mention that a lot of that fundraising is really teachers doing different things at the high school. They'll wear jeans and put $1 in a bucket all year, so they've got money built up for this time of year in particular. Other places do fundraising, they do outreach with kids and with families. And so, for example, at the high school, or at the middle school, the counseling department was kind of the leaders in that area, and they reached out and to families in particular that had wish lists, and the families they did some fundraising, and a whole bunch of local families had some special things that they were able to have for this season. And so that's a wonderful example. And that happens at every single one of our schools in different ways and led by different people, but it's all still the same great basic activity. Some other things that are going on, you can hear we've got sports going, the winter season is going in full swing, and you can hear the wrestling team is right next door. And I've got teams out in different locations far away playing basketball. National Honor Society collected food for the food pantry through its annual food drive, and they raised nearly, about $1,200 and 750 individual food items. Peers for Peers, a great club here at the high school, held a hygiene drive to supply feminine products for school restrooms. More than 500 items were donated as well as cash, so thank you very much. And we'd like to say thank you. A local church, the Revolution Church in Plymouth, every member of the Plymouth School District was given a gift box with, a little message of thanks for the work that everybody's done, and how they just reaching out and showing some gratitude, and great little items in there, little treats, and then just sometimes it's the little things that really go a long way. And speaking of little things, my thanks to the entire district, to the leadership of the board, to the families and students, and to the staff who have worked diligently to get this far, and with resolute firmness and their desire to keep learning no matter what the surrounding environment is like. And so people have done a great job doing that. And in a really good example of coming together, even though people have different feelings and different beliefs about things. We had our rise in our COVID numbers, and we made some difficult choices to do some masking, and we thought we'd go to a virtual concert and got feedback and went away from that and tried to be innovative with getting it to be in person, even though we ruined Joe's birthday.
Not one, but two concerts.
But, people, we worked together as a community, and there was maybe a couple arguments here and there, but we got through it. Our numbers have been really good for these past few weeks. feel like the temperature around those issues kind of goes down when the numbers kind of come down. So people pull together, and in a spirit of togetherness at the holidays, I think we should focus on those good times when we were able to do that and move forward, because our ultimate mission is student achievement, and if we're all pulling in the same direction for keeping that center circle about student achievement on right in the front of our minds, all our decisions are going to be good ones. So again, thank you and Merry Christmas.
Thank you.
Christmas, Merry Christmas.
All right. With that, we need a motion to adjourn.
Motion to adjourn?
Second.
All in favor?
Yes.
Opposed?